Welcome to the GTM Loop. I'm Angi Milano.
And I'm Holly Glowaty. And today on the show, as always, we are talking all things go-to-market strategies. So real stories, real tactics from real people that can help you sell it, keep it, or grow it.
Woo.
So today, I'm actually really excited about this conversation. We have on the show Sarah Greenwell, and Sarah is a recruiter. And her company, Growth Mode Partners, helps companies that are in growth stage. And this is a question that Angi and I get a lot, don't we?
Yes, all the time, at least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Who
do I hire?
Somebody?
Do you know anyone good? And a lot of our friends who do go-to-market strategy oftentimes tack on some recruiting services.
Mm-hmm.
Angi and I do not think that is our strong point.
No.
But that's why we brought on experts like Sarah to talk about this very topic. And the idea that we circle multiple times in this conversation, I absolutely love, is hiring for impact. Oh. And how do you do that? Because oftentimes when you are early or you are growing, I don't know that you can actually define the role that you really, really need, but you know what needs to get done, what you need to feel, what the impact needs to look like. So how do you effectively hire for that is a wonderful North Star and a really great way to sort of reframe your thinking around hiring. So we hope you all really enjoyed this conversation with Sarah.
I felt like we could have talked to her for another hour and cover so many other elements, but yeah, super excited.
Welcome to the GTM Loop. We are so excited that today we are joined by Sarah Greenwell. So Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely. So before we jump into all the questions we have for you, why don't you introduce yourself, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm Sarah Greenwell. I am the founder and executive talent partner for Growth Mode. So Growth Mode, we are, if you are a tech company that is really at any inflection point in your journey, we come in and we help you build your team. So mostly B2B, SaaS, some consumer tech, but anywhere from, pre-seed, we've helped with founding engineers up to our biggest company that we work with is about 600 people globally, Series F. They're preparing for their IPO. So if you're rapidly scaling, we're who you want.
Awesome. And it's, this, I think some people might say, like, why are we talking about hiring on a go-to-market strategy podcast? But honestly, it's probably one of the top questions Angi and I get in our day-to-day is, who should I hire? Do you know anyone good? Especially when you are going to market and you're trying to scale. So we think this is an incredibly pertinent conversation. So, and Sarah's someone we go to, so we're very excited to have you joining us.
Yeah, I feel like if I don't get one or two of those questions once a week, I'm like, what's happening? Because, hey, I'm hiring a brand new or a founding AE. Do you know anybody?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do angel investing through a group called the Josephine Collective here in Chicago, and so I see all the pitch decks and pitch Zooms, and that's what it's always on there when I get whatever round of funding I'm going for. It's these key hires that I'm going to make. So I'm not surprised you're getting all those questions.
I think this is a good segue into one of our first questions that we had for you. At what point when someone is launching, right? They're launching, they're going into a new market. At what point how can they tell when it's time to hire? Is it just the pressure? I think there's kind of tacking onto that because I think this will sort of go into that. And then how do you kind of prioritize who those first hires are?
It's a great question, and there's no simple answer because it's
of course not
for each company, each product. One thing for founders to keep in mind is that for a long time, and again, it's different depending on every company, you are part of the reason why your customers are buying. And so I see founders, especially if they're technical founders, they want to get that salesperson in. They want to get in someone that's going to help get more customers, engage them. But when you are still scaling and you're still very small, you are what they're buying. It's not just your product, it's you. So I think keeping that in mind of, okay, maybe I don't love sales or I don't think that is my strongest suit. Maybe you can look at who could I hire that's going to support me with that. So whether it's a sales engineer or a product marketer that can be helpful with the collateral, it's not always, okay, I need a seller to be my first hire if that's not my background.
That is such a great point, because I feel like the founder-led sales motion at the beginning does so well because they're the most passionate about the product. And I feel like that passion kind of like leaps off the Zoom or the page or whatever it is that they're presenting, that an AE has to learn that, because there's a ramp-up time for salespeople as well, no matter how many times they've sold into different industries.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point of you're not going to find someone who is as passionate about the product as the founder. At least not right away. And you want to be able to complement that with whatever it is that you as the founder or an early stage employee find that you're not able to answer. So for instance, I founded a software company that's working on post-acute care because I used to be in the nursing field. I know how difficult it is. I can speak to that, but maybe I was never on the operational side. And so I need someone to come in that maybe they haven't done anything in post-acute, but they get ops for a small business and they can fill in the gaps that maybe I'm not thinking of.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because I think the other thing about being a founder that sometimes the reality does not hit you until you're in it is that you're probably going to be doing like a million jobs that you never thought you were going to be doing as a founder. And sometimes you do have to let go of the pieces that you really enjoy to make sure, especially in those early days, to make sure that like the business keeps running. So how do you sort of fill those gaps without also, I don't know, I've seen it also where you hire someone and then because they love that role so much, they end up still trying to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. But get out of the way, please.
Yeah. It's tough.
It's hard to let go. And you're right, because we see it too early. A lot of times it's like, okay, I've reached a certain revenue. I can finally hire this person to come in and do this thing that maybe you don't really need the person to do yet. But we've also seen it come way too late where, okay, this has really gone off the rails. You should have gotten someone in here a while ago instead of relying on this certain software tool to do this for you.
I'm just like, I know.
We've been there
sometimes.
I know.
Well, me too. I mean, my company is very small. There's only 3 of us, but I'm always at, I always want to take on an interesting position. So say a client reaches out to me, or it's a leader I've worked with in the past, and they want to hire a certain role that I know Shelley or Caitlin would be probably better off doing, or fantastic, but I just want to do it because I know I can do it. And, thinking about the economics of what I have to pay them, what I have to pay myself. And so there are all these considerations, but always just as the founder, you have to zoom out and think about what really is best for the business. Is it me jumping in and being in the weeds, or should I give someone else an opportunity to do that? And then I can grow us in a different way.
Yeah. Well, do you have any tips on how founders can think about how do they prioritize those first hires? Like any way that they can sort of, anything you've seen work where they could actually like step back and say, okay, maybe this is actually important for us right now. Because I think sometimes it feels like just almost too much to tackle, or you worry about making the wrong decision.
Yeah. My biggest advice is, and I know this is going to sound weird for tech companies and in the age of AI, but just get away from your computer, get out a notebook, get out a pen, and just write down what is going well, where are you feeling stuck, and see what comes out for you. I do this a lot. I do this at least once a week where I just sit down with my coffee and just think about it without the data, and then go back and see, all right, what are the numbers telling me? Where are we falling behind? Where did I hope we'd be from a revenue standpoint and we're not? And then you can dissect from there what's missing, what's not working, and what is working. So again, this is where it's going to be different depending on the different companies, but from there you'll get answers on what outcomes are we not getting to. Now, a lot of times it's not going to be exactly what you thought. So it might be, biz dev. Just need more biz dev. You guys probably hear that from everyone. We need some biz dev. Yes, we need more customers. But that doesn't necessarily mean you should hire a biz dev person. You should hire a salesperson. So that's when you can talk to other founders, talk to other people on your team if you already have that, and figure out, what are we really trying to get at? And then, is the solution a person? It might be. Is it a tool? Is it a software? What really is it, before you just go right out and say, okay, we need more customers, so we're going to hire a salesperson.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there are so many tools now that can help you with intent and warming up leads and things like that. Sometimes better suited just to do that first and have a really good tech stack that supports you before you go and throw a person in the mix. So that's a really good point. And like super helpful tactical things for founders, I feel like, is where they do better because they are so busy and have so many things going on. It's almost like, hey, if you implement this, here's the outcome. Most likely this is what's going to happen. And then in maybe a few months, you're bringing on a person. You'll outgrow this, but it'll get you through. I feel like that's a lot of the advice that I get asked for, is that in-between phase.
I would say, and it's interesting, I was just reading a LinkedIn post that Amanda Lanner wrote about Luke Tannen, who does the Chicago Innovation, asking her about, big bets that she's made or mistakes she's made. And it was about hiring people or giving people a chance based on them being hungry and passionate versus already having that skill set. And that is another piece I see a lot. And at every stage, these Series C companies where it's like, okay, we need someone who is an expert in this. And maybe you do, and that's great. And if they're an expert in this certain thing, then they can help you uncover some blind spots. But more than that, you need someone that you can trust, and that you're not going to have to explain every tiny little thing to. And so a lot of those earlier hires are going to be people who just get it. And that talking to them, is they understand what I'm trying to do. They understand our problem space. They understand our ICP. And then, I'll teach them all the things that they need to know outside of that.
That kind of dovetails two questions for me. Because one is, when you look at these hires when you're earlier stage, sometimes you really do want that industry veteran in there who's maybe only operated somewhere larger, and they're saying, hey, I want to come and work at a startup. Is it a good idea? What is the difference there? I mean, should we be going for passion and that kind of drive versus someone who's maybe never done startup but seems to have a great Rolodex? I feel like this is a common thing that we run into.
Okay, so personal story. My husband and I left the corporate world about 15 years ago to open a coffee shop. And what we found quickly was that we hated it. We had all these ideas of, because it's so romantic. You have a coffee shop, you have your customers, and you're just sitting there with a mug and you're chatting and there's live music. And then you're not thinking about, okay, there's going to be really angry customers because you gave them almond milk instead of oat milk. So I feel like that's how it is a lot of times with enterprise folks going to a startup. And the idea of a startup is, so romantic and so exciting. And oh my God, I'm going to be there at the ground floor and I get to build. And then the reality hits where I don't have a big team. I don't have the resources. I don't have the brand recognition. And that's not to say that someone from a very large company can't come and be successful at a startup. They absolutely can. But you really need to pressure test that during the interview courting process and make sure they have a real understanding of what the reality is here. A lot of founders are so excited about what they're doing and they really want this person to join. And so they go through all the great things and neglect to bring up the fact that, hey, you're not going to have a budget or, you're not going to have a team for 3 years or whatever. If
you want almond milk, you're going to have to make it. We're going to give you some almonds in a cup. That's startup life.
Yeah, exactly. And it also depends on what you're going to do. Because I see all the time a lot of excitement over the big names, especially if you're in such a niche area and there are companies that you admire, companies that are adjacent that, yes, have a great Rolodex, have worked with the same customer as you, that you just want people from that. But you're not considering the differences between the companies. And maybe it is a company they're coming from where people have already heard of it, or, they already have an integration with this other software. I'm thinking, health tech. That's always a thing, is we want someone else with health tech experience because they're going to get payers, providers, health systems, all the things. But not all health tech is created equal. So if you're already, integrated with all these EHRs, and then you're coming into a startup that doesn't have those integrations, you're trying to sell, it's a totally different type of sale. So all those things, again, not saying that talent can't do it. They just have to really be excited about what you're doing and understand the reality of what they're walking into.
Yeah. I think we've all been in that position where it is great to be like, oh my gosh, we brought someone over from like this huge name because they believe in us. But understanding how they work best is going to be the challenge. Because if they haven't had to do the grunt work in a decade, and it's going to be all grunt work.
Yes, right.
That's really, that's harder than you think, because if you haven't been in, Google Slides or PowerPoint in 10 years, and all of a sudden you have to produce a deck because there's no graphic designer or marketing, like full-time marketing team on yet. Like there's just all of those things everyone kind of has to think about. And startup life is just a different grind and different expectations, right? So, or even honestly, Series A, Series B, even when you're like a little more established, you're still pretty gritty, in my opinion.
Yes, you are still gritty. And I don't want to discount the big names. I would suggest alternatives sometimes for that, because especially if you're going to be doing a fundraising round, it does matter, right? The pedigree of the team does matter. And so you can fill that out with advisors. You could fill that out with other role types. And you can seek people that are maybe in different types of positions. So maybe they're not the head of a certain thing within the company name that you want, but they worked there at some point, or, you can still use that to be able to showcase to your investors and your customers that we have this type of talent on our team. It doesn't need to be the person that was leading the thing.
Yeah. That's great advice. I've had some early stage companies that invested in somebody because of the logo of where they came from, but then the person wasn't effective because it was like that different that it just didn't work out. And the downside of it is they spend all of their money on that person. and they're not getting the revenue in sales typically. And so then I love the idea of saying, bring in someone who's an advisor from that company, because now you're getting the best of both worlds and you're not burning through your budget, where maybe you can get someone that's a little more scrappy, cost you a little bit less, will get some things done, and have them work with the advisor to get the same kind of level of skills. I feel like that's a great practical piece of advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I appreciate that a lot. It's interesting because I've seen it work both ways, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's also understanding the reality of, and again, if you're not I'm saying this very much from a salesperson's perspective, I suppose, because that's what we get asked about with go-to-market. It's generally going to be a lot of selling, business development, et cetera, partnerships. So very much that side of the house, but sometimes it's a lot of product as well.
Yeah.
I find, yeah. And yeah, so just like, I guess when I'm thinking through this, it's making sure everyone understands the system they're coming into is maybe that, and maybe having that honest look yourself as the founder or the senior team, saying like, okay, who are we right now and how do we best prepare this person? Because it's sort of like when Angie and I talk about getting like a bad lead in, you can spin your wheels and waste all this time, all this money. But getting like the right candidate, it's tough. It's a hard thing to do. I think getting the right candidate. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but
right.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to prepare yourself and your team for this, don't you? Like, and your potential hire for like, okay, why are we hiring this? And what do we really look like?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it is and that's why I love the size and stage of companies that we recruit for, because it is truly where every single hire matters and you can't get it wrong. And so that's where the right way of finding the talent, sourcing the talent is really important. But even more so how you are engaging and going through the process. And this is where I see a lot of, especially early stage, miss one side of the equation. Either they are spending so long vetting and then they're like, okay, yes, this is who we need. We're ready to hire them. And then the candidate's like, I'm not sure why I want to join this company. They just drove time. Or it's the other way where, like we talked about, they spend so much time selling on why this is great. And then the person flames out and they can't figure out why. They totally missed in the interview process all the opportunity to uncover those things. So really making sure that before you go down the road, either way, you're very clear on what really are they doing, what really are you assessing for, and then how can you make sure that it's equally weighted throughout that whole process.
And I think sometimes the guidance and go-to-market product is a big one, because not everybody thinks of product as go-to-market. They usually think sales. But what I find to be one of the most misunderstood things is the idea of getting leads in when you're not investing whatsoever, not one iota, in marketing. Because 90% of lead gen work is in getting your name out there. And a salesperson is not going to do that for you. Not the same way. They just can't. I mean, you can't be the person who's selling, cheerleading, putting the word out. Like, that's just not the way it works. And so one of the things I find super early is the clear distinction between setting the groundwork, which is marketing, spending the money on that, and then thinking about how those leads manifest themselves into a person working it, or a founder working it, or a BDR expanding it, or whatever it is. But that seems to be a really big challenge.
Yeah. Well, it's all chicken or egg, right? So marketing, to your point, you can spend a ton on marketing. And then if your product isn't up to snuff, then it doesn't matter, because, as soon as they use your product, it work. But yeah, that's where it comes in with, are you investing in tools and software and systems that can help you out? And when do you find that kind of stops working? So yeah, maybe I am putting in putting a ton into Google Ads. I'm a founder. I'm trying everything I can on my own to get the leads, but they're not the right quality leads, or the leads are coming in and now what? So that is probably a good signal that, okay, it's a time to hire someone that knows what they're doing. I've kind of done all I can on my own with, all the inbound stuff.
Well, this is interesting because we've been talking about sort of that first hire, but there really are kind of two transitions founders have to make. So first is letting go of selling to the lead, right?
Yeah.
And you're letting that go to a team that owns revenue, and then later scaling that team without losing the speed and customer closeness that drove early traction. Yeah. So I feel like that's a hard transition, usually like a bit of a growing pains. So what have you seen that kind of breaks down in those types of shifts? And is it something you have to think about from a headcount perspective, or is this like a process? I don't know what you've seen there before, but I think this is something that a lot of our listeners are experiencing and have experienced, is that sort of growth pain.
In the disconnect from the customer or the disconnect from the client?
I would say like when you're scaling the team and and again, this is a very sales and revenue focused one here, but it's like, maybe you're trying to transition away from founder-led sales, and everyone's used to seeing that founder. So how do you, I guess when you're hiring for that, what do you need to look out for? What should you be thinking about? Like, how do you almost transition the founder out of that so they can, let's say they are technical and you want them back building this product, so you can you can do that, but then also not create those bottlenecks where you just kind of keep going back to them and pulling them back in. Like,
oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen this at even super late stage companies where the founder will just not remove themselves from the process. Yeah. We hired a director of sales last year, and the founder was very clear that no matter what, they are going to be in all of the sales calls. They are going to be the ones closing regardless. So separating it from the hiring question, it's got to be a look in the mirror, executive coach, whatever it's going to be.
So you may want to think about an executive coach. Yes.
You might. So for the founder to be able to say, okay, I am letting go, and I'm comfortable with this, and we're going to see what happens. And I would say probably the hardest thing is, what is that length of time that you wait? Because there will be a ramp, and there will be times where you're going to lose sales, or you're going to maybe not get the sale because they're used to seeing you there at every single one, or the stories are being told as compelling as you tell it as the founder. So it's just, you have to try, or else you're never going to grow as a founder. Your company is never going to grow. Ideally, you get the right hire, and it's great, and you can then figure out how to refine it instead of fix it. But you never know until you do it.
Yeah. When you're helping teams hire, what's kind of the process? Like, what do you take a team through to help them think about, who they need, what they want to do? And I mean, is it just we're looking at it as a single role, or do they need to be kind of looking down the road to understand where the team is going to hopefully eventually grow to?
Absolutely. So it needs to be done holistically. You can never hire just a role without considering the company, the team, the impact. So I always ask to start with impact. So we hire the right person for this role. What is the impact that they're going to make? And then from there, we can go backwards and define it. Where I see a lot of issues is, and this is where tools are kind of at our detriment now, is I need to hire, a head of product marketing. Come on, write me a job description for a head of product marketing. And then it's all about, what are the bullet points? What is this person doing? What skills are they bringing? and you're not really getting at the heart of what do you truly need. And once you get at the heart of what you truly need, what is the impact this person is going to make, then it's a lot easier to connect the dots and complement the different skill sets on your team. So product marketing, maybe I have a fantastic product leader. Maybe my marketing leader had just stepped up into this. They're a bit more junior. That's going to change who it is that I'm looking for. So you have to consider all of that when you're going into it. So we'll always go through an exercise first where we really scope it. A question I always ask is, why not someone who's already on the team to do this? And that is a good question for companies that are usually at that Series B to C stage, and they have 60 to 100 people, and it's just we need a VP of product. It's like, okay, do you have a great product person on the team that could step up into this? Yes or no? Or could your engineering leader, who you're telling me is so amazing, could they also take product and just you groom your senior product manager to do this role? So that's something I know not all recruiters do this, because sometimes it gets you out of work, because actually I could try that out. But it's important, and it gets you thinking about your team, the skill set on your team, and how who's already there is going to grow, and how you're going to want to find the right person to do that. And then from there, it kind of naturally builds itself out to, okay, these are the things we know we really need. This is the person we know we really need. And then it comes to, okay, where do they live right now? Which is always the biggest question, and goes back to are they working at a bigger company? Are they working at a company that's where we want to be in 5 years? Are they working at a smaller company, but in a bigger role? And just kind of refining those levers and what we really need there.
I like that.
Things to consider.
Yeah, because I do think sometimes you are just looking to check things off a list almost. Sometimes when you don't know where to start with hiring, especially, right?
Yes.
But starting with impact, I think is a very, it can change your whole idea about who might be the right person sometimes. Do you find that happens?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It does. And then it goes back into, it's always helpful for me, especially if I already have a job description, to then go and see what it changes. And then I can push back on certain things. I hate years of experience. It's so arbitrary. So it'll be like, okay, so we talked about, the impact is to, 5X lead pipeline, whatever. Like, what about them having been in this role for 12 years makes you think they'll be able to do that? Then it's like, be open. So it's always helpful to do that. And then figure out too, a lot of times technologies is another big one. When it's like, need to be an expert in Marketo. It's like, do they really need to be an expert in Marketo? Or, could it be a different tech stack that they've utilized and they can learn it? Because if you've learned one, chances are you can learn another. Yes.
I think sometimes you forget you can teach that, or someone can learn it.
Yeah.
And at this point, having talked about the rest of the team and the skills they have, and it's also like, okay, do I really, our VP of engineering is really strong. Do we really need this product marketer to also be strong in this piece? Helpful to go through that.
Yeah. Hiring for where you have the gaps, like in knowledge, not just, I guess, who you think you need to hire.
Yes.
Sort of. Yeah.
Title.
And what complements? So I think you both know, before Growth Mode, my company was called Her Move, and I was focused on helping women in leadership get hired by more tech companies, or having more representation of women's voices in leadership. And so that's still a question that I always ask is, what perspective is missing from your team? Because especially, as we all know, early stage founders, you bring in your friends, you bring in the people you've worked with before, people from your work, depending on what your past company was like. People
Yes.
might all look, act, talk the same.
Yes.
Your customers don't. Your customers are all different. And so it's what is a perspective or a background that is missing on the team right now that bringing someone in, whether it's a woman, a person of color, a person of, different educational background, upbringing, could just add to the conversation and expose areas that we're just not thinking of right now. That's kind of cross-functional area.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great one, because you don't want a team that looks, feels, knows everything exactly the same. You want them to be diverse in a multitude of different ways. So the cross-functional, I think, makes a ton of sense. The perspective someone would bring that came from a larger company, that's different too. I feel like when we think about diverse perspectives, it couldn't be something like they came from a different company. It could be gender. It could be, sometimes it's a different industry that's adjacent, where they bring a perspective that's just a little bit different, but could really help. So I love that. Bridging in the diversity right in the culture, I think, is so important.
Yes. And consumer tech is a really interesting one because I find hiring partners at consumer tech typically want people that use their product. They know and love their product. Every now and then, I love when I get a leader that's like, either I don't care or I don't want them to be an avid user of the product. Strava is a big one. A big client of mine. And so on the product team, we've had certain roles. Yes, ones where it's like, I need to find an ultra marathoner so they can get that user.
Yes.
Like, okay, I've got my work cut out for me. It's like, find out that you're a product manager and an ultra marathoner. But anyway, other times it's like, we want to capture a new audience that we don't have yet. And it's these people that don't consider themselves athletes. So let's actually look for someone that doesn't use our product, and they can bring that perspective of, I don't think I'm an athlete, but I would use this product if. So that's always an interesting one to think about too. Does it need to be your user if you're consumer tech? Does it need to be your industry if you're B2B?
Oh, I love that. Well, this flew by. I feel like we're almost at time here, but I do have one more question I want to ask you, because I feel like, and I feel like we're in an interesting time with hiring or looking to be hired. Is there anything in this market that if someone's looking to hire, you think they have to consider maybe a little differently, or is there anything that's kind of special about right now that you're seeing or experiencing with clients that, this audience might find helpful?
I think AI is just changing the game so quickly and every day. I would say, please don't rely on AI to do your hiring for you. It's, use it to help, use it to find patterns, use it to assess things in a different way than you might just behaviorally. But at the end of the day, you're human. The rest of your employees are human. Your customers are human. So it needs to be a human decision-making process. So AI enabled, yes, but human hiring, it's so important. Don't skip any pieces. Don't have, especially like we were talking about, if you're pressure testing, if you're hiring someone from Salesforce to come to your, 20-person startup, don't rely on AI to have screened out if that person can make the transition. You need to get real with them, make sure this isn't gonna flame out. And at the moment, AI still can't test for motivation, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still those hard to quantify capabilities. Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a fine line with, I love the potential for AI to remove bias. happens so often just with the human element. And it's oh, they work at this company. I hired someone once that worked at that company and they were bad. So this person's going to be bad. Or, there's all sorts of random things or, confirmation bias. Like, they look great on paper and I'm going into the interview and I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep on going and asking that question until I can do the check mark. Yes, they are good, versus the other way around. So I love AI being able to practically take some of that off. But again, you have to be really in it in the process.
That's fair.
Yeah. I feel like that's in general too. I think as you're thinking about how to staff your team, because there is a lot of mentality out there that like, oh, well, AI can just do some of this. So I don't need this person or I need someone that's more junior. But I still can't replace all of the things that a seasoned professional can do for you. And I think that's the other side of the coin is, yes, you shouldn't be using AI to hire, but you also shouldn't be thinking about who to hire based on the tasks that AI can take away from you.
Yes.
I hear that a lot, which is like, oh, well, we're just going to put that through Claude or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, that may or may not work out.
Yes. Well, I'm working on a head of field marketing role right now. That's so fascinating. And they're really very smartly big on, we need a field marketer, not an event marketer. And so I feel like you can apply kind of just that as a metaphor to hiring with Claude or with AI that is such a slight difference.
Yes.
Sure, they're both running events, but one is approaching it based on ROI and pipeline and ABM and all these things that the other one isn't. They might be more worried about swag but it's it's going to show up the same to someone that isn't really going in there and digging in and figuring out what are you truly doing? What's the impact you're really making at your company versus just you're at XYZ trade show.
Yeah. Gosh. Hiring for impact. That is the theme of our conversation. I love that.
I mean, I think that's a title right there.
I think it might be.
I feel like every single time we talk to somebody, like right around the end, Holly says something or I say something, we're like, that's the title.
That's it.
Last time it was our guest. I won't give any of it away, but the title's really good.
I love this. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they reach out?
Yes. So growthmode.partners is our website, and you can see everything, all the ways to contact on there. I'm also, as a recruiter, very active on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, all that works.
Awesome. Well, Sarah Greenwell, thank you so much for your time today. And we'll put everything in the show notes, all these links and ways to reach out, guys. So, all right. Well, thanks so much.
Great to spend some time with you today. It was awesome.
You too. Thank you.
How do you know a conference conversation really went well? Not just, they totally get what we're building. I mean, really went well. Like, the exact pain you solve for that company, not just the pain you solve in general. They have budget, and who says go and when on that team. Now, if you're not sure, it might be time to relook at your ICP. And that means it's a great time to check out the GTM Loop system, a 5-pillar course series for fintech founders ready to build scalable go-to-market strategies. We're announcing our first pillar, Clarify Your Ideal Customer Profile. It's available today for only $49. So go to thegtmloop.com or go to the show notes to click directly to the URL and get started today.